Guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be discussing the concept of leaving the West. Leaving the Western world in hopes of new adventures in Asia, in other parts of the world, perhaps South America. I see a lot of content on this online. I don't know if it's just the fact that I'm getting onto a YouTube loop of it and it's getting recommended more and more, or if it really is just a big trend. We've spoken about this specifically for the UK in previous videos, but this is a trend that I'm seeing for Americans, for Canadians, Australians as well, basically any of these English speaking countries, but also Germany and France. You know, people want to move. People are making a lot of content speaking about how they want to move. And I understand why. There are some genuine factors which make life in other parts of the world potentially better. Hot weather, perhaps better taxes, perhaps more safe countries, which are all very valid points, and points that I would not disagree with. But at the same time, I think there is a hidden message and a hidden fact about this which nobody is discussing on this platform, YouTube. And I think the reason for that is because it's going to get a lot more hate, it's going to get a lot less views, but hey, do I care? Not really. Let's have a discussion, guys, about the dark side of leaving the West, and why, even if you want to do it, you should watch this video before you even consider it. So this one that I'm making today is not just about the UK, it's about all of these Western countries, you know, the European ones, North American ones. These are all the places that I'm hearing people say they want to leave. And when you look around, it kind of makes sense on the surface of it. I'm in the UK, and I will agree that a lot of things here are in trouble. And the same is true, I know, for the US, Canada and Australia. Check the prices of housing in most big cities. Yeah, sure, you can get cheap houses in the middle of nowhere, in towns that are crime-stricken and poverty-stricken that no one wants to live in. But big cities, especially inner cities where you'd want to kind of grow your career if you want to have that, houses are very expensive. I know this might be a bit more UK-specific, but the infrastructure is crumbling, right? I pay like £500 tax to drive my car, which is meant to go to fixing the roads. The roads, you drive over some of them, your car gets damaged and has to be repaired for extra hundreds of pounds because of the damage. People don't like the political system, both here in the UK and the US. It's been elections recently in both. And of course, there's problems that come with that potentially on both sides. Especially in the UK, people don't like the taxes, but I know the same's true for Canada and also Australia. There's a lot of reasons why people are compelled to leave in the Western world. Then there's other factors that you may not like, and of course this is very much location dependent, but weather. People don't like the weather. I've heard people complaining about migration or immigration, not just here in the UK, but in Canada and the US as well. Now again, I'm not going to speak about which one of these points is most important, or if any of them are important at all, but these are good reasons that people give for wanting to leave. And a lot of people want to pursue different opportunities. Now chances are, if you are in one of these countries, you're not looking for more money, because let's be honest, places like the US, Canada, Australia, UK, France, these are where you will find the highest paying jobs in the world generally. Now of course there are going to be some exceptions, maybe some places in China will pay better, maybe Hong Kong, Dubai obviously. We could go on, there are going to be some hotspots which will pay you more realistically, but generally for a lot of people these are the highest paying parts of the world. So it's not the pay necessarily, but it's oftentimes the pay relative to the cost of living that people don't like. It's very expensive to live in these parts of the world, undeniably, right? Like I say, look at the price of rents in most big cities. In Canada seems to be especially, Australia especially, but also the US and the UK is expensive. At the same time though, this is a trend that I think a lot of people buy into as a sense of escapism. Now hear me out with this one, because I know a lot of people may not like where I'm going with this, but if you watch till the end it may make a lot more sense. Things in these countries do appear to be getting in some ways worse, but at the same time we are at the pinnacle of human evolution. The average person on an average wage, not a low wage because of course there are a lot of those, but an average wage or an upper average wage in the UK, the US, Europe, will have the best quality of life as anywhere in the world. There may be some things that are worse, but look at where we are in the modern world. You guys know by now, I have a reselling business that I was able to start in this country due to the luxuries afforded, like Wi-Fi, heating, housing. And this sounds basic, but think about some of the places in the world, right? These are privileges. So I've been able to start an online business where I make more than the average UK salary. If you want to learn about that, the link is in my bio, and I teach you guys how to start an online reselling business too. But yeah, I can make more on my online business in a month than the average UK salary. Add that with the average UK salary working as well, you can have a very nice quality of life here. But that's not the point. A lot of people don't like the weather. Like I say, they don't like the way the country's being run, and for them it does make sense to move abroad. But at the same time, they fail to acknowledge what you're going to need to go to these places. You see, the cost of living is cheap, and that makes a lot of people very excited. I don't want to give a specific country name because people will say, well, it's not that cheap anymore, or this. Let's just say country X, the UK, the US, Europe, you might need £2,500 to £4,000 to live nicely a month. And then they hear places like country Y. I don't want to give examples, like I say, but a lot of South America, a lot of Asia, and they can hear that they can do the same lifestyle on maybe 1,000, 1,200, 1,500. It makes a lot of sense. Now, what a lot of these people fail to understand is your skills in these places are likely not going to be transferable, and this will basically ruin you at the first opportunity. Because a lot of you guys, your plan when you get to these places is to get a job. But here's the thing. If you get a job in these countries, even as an English speaker, the chances that you're going to be getting paid much above the local salary or wage is very low. So here's the thing. These cheap countries are just as expensive, if not worse, because for the poor people there, the quality of life is likely going to be worse, or the same at least. And if you're on an average salary, you're not going to be as rich as you think. So your skills are not as transferable as you may believe. A lot of these people looking to leave these Western countries have a very, very good point behind them. And I get it. I do agree that a lot of things in this part of the world are what you might call just jarring. But at the same time, you are not putting measures in place, or generally the people that I see speaking about this, are not putting measures in place to keep them safe when they do go out there. You're going to need substantial savings. You're going to need an income. But also, before you even think about that, and it has to be an online income, or at least something where you can be paid passively in your country, and then it obviously goes to you in your new country. But before you even start to think about that, you need to think about the lifestyle that is going to be there. You see, whilst a lot of these countries do provide an ostensibly better quality of life than the UK, the US, and what I mean by that is, yeah, for £2,000 you can live a life that might cost 4, 6 or 8 here in the UK. But a lot of these people, because they're looking for a certain image or a certain lifestyle, they are very hesitant to dismiss some realities. And this is what I mean, right? So the UK is a place that I've always lived in. I can see straight away a lot of the economic, social, political and cultural problems here, because I've seen it over the last 20 years. I was born here, I understand it. If I go on holiday to Spain for a week or Thailand for a month, it's very difficult for me to have the same level of insight. And a lot of these people view these places like they're on holiday mode, not really seeing what life is going to be like for the true locals. You see, I'm very fortunate with this channel because when I filmed my video about 6 months ago, where I spoke about people wanting to leave rich Western countries, I mentioned the fact that a lot of people look for a cheaper quality of life, and to us, in the rich countries, it seems like that. But I had people in the comment section telling me in parts of Southern Europe, which we see as cheap, or Asia, people are struggling just as much. The locals have it just as bad, if not worse, if not, slightly better. So, for you to even think about thriving in these countries, you need to maintain a UK or US or European salary or income. This is a non-negotiable. Before you even think about going out there, you need to do that. And of course, just like rich people in the UK or the US or anywhere else can live in a certain part of the city or the country which kind of removes them from the violence and the disruption of everyday life, right? You may have the same experience wherever you're going to move, but understand that this place is undeniably not going to be perfect. I mean, I don't want to go into specific country politics because I'm not the best at it, but think about certain countries that you want to move to and look at their political issues. Equally bad, sometimes worse. Maybe not necessarily of the biggest concern, but this idea that it's all rosy out in Asia or South America compared to the UK, which is going downhill, may not be as true as you think, right? A lot of stuff will be better there, and generally, even if you're going to be poorer or worse off, this may better suit your quality of life or your lifestyle. But I think a lot of people go in with this mindset that everything's going to be perfect, nothing can go wrong, and a lot of these countries will face the exact same problems that you are facing here, sometimes even more exaggerated. Another big thing is the reason that people give to move. The idea that life cannot be sustained here anymore. The idea that it's not worth it. And I somewhat agree with this, but I'd definitely pose the question a little bit differently, or I'd pose a question to you guys. And that is, why are we still doing everything like it's the 1950s? And this seems to be a big part of, well, Western culture. The idea that you get a mortgage, you get a degree, obviously perhaps in a different order, you get a degree, you get a mortgage, you get a wife and kids, and you live happily ever after. Now, this part of the world hasn't caught up in the societal changes that we've seen, because everyone's still claiming that they want this style of life, but the statistics are not backing it up, the facts are not making it worth it. A lot of you guys are going to be single in your early 20s to mid 20s, you're probably not going to be that well off, you don't need a 4-bedroom house. You can have a 1-bedroom apartment, which in some places are still relatively affordable. And again, I'm not saying that the UK or anywhere else is perfect, but it goes back to the point that people like to completely doom a place that they live in, whilst failing to acknowledge the very, very privileges that they have reaped from this. Whether we're talking about the US or the UK, I'm going to just say a blatant fact. Wrongly or rightly, take your political views out of this one, right? But people pay the ultimate price trying to reach this country. The ultimate price. They lose their lives, they spend their entire incomes or net worths, and whether that's right or wrong, again, I'm not trying to go down that route. I don't think it's relevant to the point that I'm making. But people are claiming that they're so hard done by, and it's so undoable in a place where people are dying to come to. Literally, people are dying to come. It's not funny at all. But there is a point to that. And the point to that is this. When we have such privileges that we can take for granted, and we do take for granted actually, it's very, very easy to look towards other places and think about why they're better. Now here's the thing. Life for the 1%, the 10% even, in the UK is very, very good. Life for the 1% and the 10% in the US is going to be very good. Canada, very good. Australia, very good, right? The richest people in these parts of the world are the richest people in the world, especially the US. We all know this as a fact. So going back to the point that I'm making here, we fail to acknowledge the very luxuries that many, many people around the world would love to have. We're quick to bash what we have and fail to acknowledge what we can do to make our existence here better. Now, like I say, there are going to be some reasons why people should move, and I think that everyone should give it a go if they want to. I'm not here to dissuade you from it, I'm just here to shine a light on the opposite side. I don't even disagree with the point. I'm just trying to share some information here. But this is my point. People really want to be here. Wrongly or rightly, people do. And there's a lot of opportunity here for those who really look for it. Yes, it's different, but it still can be had. Now, focusing back on my point that I just made there, you go to a lot of these countries, and if your income is not as strong as what it would have been at home, or stronger, or relatively strong to the place that you want to go, you're the same as where you are now. You're just going to be Joe Average in the new place, like you are now. So that means that the whole concept is just escapism. If I can... Now here's the fact, right? Let's say my business continues to grow and I get to the point where I'm making 10, 15, 20,000 pounds profit a month. Maybe from one stream, maybe from a few. Now we're talking about a time where I personally might consider moving to Dubai or some places in Asia for the tax benefits, for the lifestyle that can be afforded. But that's because you're in the top 10%, right? Realistically, of the world, probably of your country, probably of that country. But a lot of you guys who are complaining about the UK, the US, you're probably in the lower half of earners. You probably have less in society, less in terms of a house, less in terms of friends and family. And I'm not insulting anybody for that at all, but I'm just trying to shed light on this fact. That means that the concept of a new life and new people and all these different things is naturally going to be extremely appealing to you. It's going to be something that makes a lot of sense because it means that you can escape where you are now. And it also absolves you of the ability to, or the need, to focus on where you are in this country. And the fact of the matter is, I know people in the UK, I know people in the US and even Canada. I know of them, and I know them, who are crushing it. They're still crushing it in this part of the world. Yeah, they might not be doing the 9-to-5s, they might not be doing the mortgage, they might be spending that money in savings or investing or stocks or whatever, or building a business. But I know people in this part of the world who are crushing it, right? I've said it before, my businesses may make me over 100k revenue this year. People in this country are still crushing it. Now, am I going to get taxed to death if that happens? Yeah. But this is my point. Can you still make something of yourself? Yes, you can. And dismissing that, I think, is just an extreme form of escapism. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm sure you guys will let me know in the comments. I always said this video was going to be perhaps more of a controversial one. I know it's not going to be the kind of thing that everyone likes, and I know some people are going to say, well, you're just trying to cope here, or these places are finished. Look, yeah, we're having new problems here. We're having big problems here. As is a lot of the world. Now, if you are not in the categories that I've spoken about, if you're someone like me who can make a location-independent income, and it's matching the salary of your average country, or your country, you should move, or you can move. If you've got good social networks at home, so if it goes wrong and you can sleep on a friend's sofa, or you've got mum and dad to rely on, as sad as it sounds, move back in with them for a couple of months if you go to your country, your new country, and it doesn't work. Any of these different things. But a lot of you guys are failing to acknowledge that these are all parameters and needs and necessities that you must put in place before you even think about moving. That's all I've got to say, guys. Thank you for watching. Hope I'll see you soon.